Well, thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight, for the League of Women Voters, for putting the forum on, for the Bellingham Herald, and of course for the City of Bellingham for allowing us to use their chambers. My wife Cindy and I have been lifelong residents of Whatcom County. We've had the opportunity to raise 3 children. We've foster parented 18 throughout the years, and now we have the just the great honor of having some grandkids. So we really do have a vested interest in Whatcom County because it's our home and we love it. My career outside of government has been the owner of Laos Trust for 30 years. My father started that in 1952. I ran it for a number of years, and for the last 4 years our son is running that. We're scattered throughout the region, and we're providing over 60 jobs, many of which are providing for living wages. My political career has involved 4 years as the Linden City Councilman, 8 years as the Linden Mayor, and now 4 years as your county executive. I feel that I have a skill set that serves Whatcom County well with my private sector experience and the growing up that I've had in my public service serving in the City of Linden. There's work yet to be done, and I'd like to be your county executive for the next 4 years to complete that. Thank you so much.
Candidate Giflin.
Thank you also. It's an honor to be here to work on behalf of democracy and American taxpayers. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for serving our country so well. I'm here to stand up for Whatcom County taxpayers, the little guy. Not corporations, not big government, but small business people, small taxpayers, and the inmates and the people who work in the Whatcom County Jail, all of us. I believe that we need to relook at how we do government business. We need to relook at how we are going to build a 21st century economy based upon new business models, not based upon old 20th century punitive business models. I absolutely stand against the jail. I stand against the jail because I spent 5 years studying the economic destruction of the middle class and of small business people and of our youth. My background for the last 25 years has been in coaching free enterprise, small business, home business people around this nation. And one of the most valuable things you can do is inspire people to do the right thing, not punish them with taxes and tax bondage. And I believe if we do the sales tax, we will actually be, in fact, cutting our legs off, our nose off to spite our face.
Candidate Laos, you have 1 minute to rebut or add.
Well, I'd like to add to my opening statement by saying that the county executive has many responsibilities in terms of developing the budget and the work plan, but also has a responsibility to the citizens to carry out the capital plans that are approved by the legislative branch. In the last 4 years, I'm pleased to be able to work with our staff, with the county council and our community to put forth our first mental health court in the community, put the first Superior Court judge in chambers, put an emergency operations center out at the airport in coordination and collaboration with the City of Bellingham and the Port of Bellingham. The Birch Bay berm, finalizing the reconveyance, records management system in the Sheriff's Office, computer replacements, new websites, assessor treasurer systems. All of these programs and more are to maintain the infrastructure in Whatcom County and to enhance the productivity of our employees. I think that I have the skill set to do that well, and I'm looking forward to completing things in the next 4 years.
And Candidate Gilfillan.
Government management is bureaucracy. I think that it's absolutely important that we do all of the things that Executive Laos speaks to. I also am aware that he said before the City Council that he lost track of the responsibility to look for alternative economic models rather than just pass a sales tax. I think that is incredibly short-sighted given the fact that our coalition that I've been president of has spent the last 5 years trying to get the attention of government, of politicians, of our executive branch, of our sheriff to talk specifically about economic development for the small business people and for the inmates of that jail so that we can take people out of the jail codependency system. It costs us $25,000 to $50,000 a year to incarcerate people, and once they go into the system, they're gone for life, oftentimes 20, 40, 60 years. We need something better. We need economic development for the little guy.
We'll move to our questions. Apart from its natural beauty, what are 3 things you value the most about living in Whatcom County? Candidate Laus.
Well, the people. I value the diversity that we have throughout Whatcom County, and I look at it as that we have 7 cities. They're all like brothers and sisters, but they're all unique. So if you go to Sumas, whether it be Blaine, Linden, or Bellingham, is that we just have a uniqueness of character, like a brother and a sister, but we're all working together for our common good. And as county executive, it's nice to be able to see all those things. My third reason that I think that Whatcom County is just a great place to be has to do, obviously, with the natural beauty, which I'm not supposed to mention. But without that, the economic development in Whatcom County as it relates to recreation wouldn't happen. And those things are all good for us.
Thank you. Candidate Gilfillan.
Freedom of thought, freedom of diversity, the innovation of the total variety of people that live here. And I believe that that comes because we have a biodiverse ecosystem. It rains all the time here. That rain actually breaks up the ions and the energetic potential of this area. And if you drive all the way across this nation and you come over the mountains and you come into Whatcom County, I love it. I can breathe. I smell good. I smell good, not always. I can smell fresh. The world is fresh here, and that freshness is why we can lead this nation in an economic revitalization strategy that I believe we are on the cusp of in Whatcom County right now.
Among all the responsibilities outlined in the county charter for the executive, what do you consider the most challenging? And please explain your choice. Candidate Gilfillan?
I think the most challenging is having to balance the needs of the many with the needs of the few. And when you read the county charter, when you look at it, what you recognize is that we've actually got a really huge disparity between the economic power that goes behind the executive branch and what goes to the county council. The county council is our policy-making body. Our executive branch is the executive body that has to give information to the county. I think that being able to balance that information flow, being able to keep our own egos in check so that we can, in fact, serve the long-term best interest of this county is one of the biggest challenges we have. And I think that one of the problems that we had with charter review is that we forget that the county lies underneath all of our cities, including our unincorporated areas. We are not. We are a united group, and we need to be working together as a unit.
Thank you. Candidate Laus?
The biggest challenge as executive, and I think as the county, working with the county council, relates to the budget process, because government works related to the work plan that you put forward. The visioning for our county is embedded into the financial document that is approved by Whatcom County on a biennial basis. So in working with the County Council over the last 2 years, putting that sustainable budget together, incorporating the capital projects that we deem necessary is really a big undertaking, and it's where the interaction with the council and the community takes place. Furthermore, as the county executive, I think the most important thing that I can do is hire the right people. There's 820 of us. It can't be done alone, and having the right team around you is just ultimately very important.
You and your opponent have different views on the ballot proposal for a .2 sales tax increase to fund a new jail. What do you believe are the best arguments for your position? And Candidate Laus, we'll start with you.
Well, I believe the 0.2% sales tax is the most appropriate way to pay for this, and really the only way to pay for the new jail, because we not only have to build it and spend the capital money to make that happen, as we need to operate it. Counties throughout the state have built facilities but haven't had the money to open the doors. And I'm committed to the citizens of Whatcom County to put a proposal together that works both to build it and to operate it. The sales tax allows us to do that under state law, where property tax only allows us to use it for capital, and we cannot use the money for running the jail. So I believe the sales tax is the right and only way for us to go, and that's why the small city mayors, also working with the city of Bellingham and the county council, agreed with me on that, and that's what the voters have before them in November to make a decision on.
Candidate Gilfillan.
I'm completely opposed to the sales tax on any basis. I think that we have overfunded the criminal justice system, the law enforcement system. I think it's a systemic problem. We have prison reform issues happening on the federal level. I think we need to have jail reform issues happening on the local level. Yes, we have an inhumane jail, but that inhumanity is not caused because we haven't passed a tax. That inhumanity is caused because we have not managed the jail properly. It's only 30 years old. The sheriff has $18.5 million sitting in an extra fund to build a sheriff's office. Why are we dealing with a crisis by spending months arguing over a sales tax when we should have been spending months arguing over how in the heck to get people out of the inhumane conditions that they're living in right now? We are torturing people here in Whatcom County, and it's not okay. Plan B should have been Plan A. Plan B is this one right here. We just wrote this plan and we've delivered it.
The mayor and council of Bellingham agree that a new jail is needed, but they have challenged details about how jail tax revenue would be divided between the county and its cities and how it would be used. Negotiations will continue. In your view, why was this conflict not resolved before the issue was placed on the ballot? And Candidate Gilfillan, I'll call on you first.
I would say it was not resolved because specifically of the leadership method and manner of behavior of Executive Lowes. He has a method of providing a solution, and when he provided his solution, he gave the council no alternative. The jail planning system, the sheriff, the entire EIS process only delivered one solution. Plan B, which is required in the EIS system, asks for a no jail alternative. What are you going to do if it doesn't happen? If you read the final environmental impact statement, there was no Plan B. What's the matter with that? What's the matter with that is we have people inside the jail being tortured right now and treated inhumanely because we don't have a business planning system. We should have had that all negotiated before we ever went to you taxpayers and asked you for a sales tax. It's inappropriate to sell a financing plan before you have a business plan completed.
Candidate Lowes.
I engaged the administration of the City of Bellingham on September 20th of last year on this issue and worked with them through the latter part of 2014. Engaged the small cities at the beginning of 2015 and gave all of the cities a proposal to respond to in April. All of the small cities in our community responded to that proposal within about 6 weeks, and the Bellingham took their first action related to it in the first part of July, when we've had really hard and fast deadlines to bring this thing to the voters. I do believe that we have an opportunity to make this work yet in the next couple of months, and I'm continuing to work with the City of Bellingham. But we do need to get this done this year because we have other major issues that are before us in future years regarding emergency medical services, the replacement of the exterior of the courthouse, and the time is now to get this done.
If elected, what would be your priorities in the budget you recommend to the County Council? What would be your most important consideration? Candidate Lowes.
Well, I found that putting together a sustainable budget is the most important thing that we can do, and one of the, I think, primary missions that I have as executive is to make sure that the employees we have have the tools to be able to do their jobs. As I've mentioned, we have 800 employees, so I've dedicated over the last 4 years about $2 million a year to information technology projects. So internally to county government is I'm using my skill set to my abilities to be able to increase those efficiencies. As it relates to outside of the community projects, infrastructure is very important to me. Our road systems are vitally important for our economic development, and the efforts that we're also doing in terms of water resources and the water plan that we have putting forth is going to be ultimately very important for the future of our citizens.
Candidate Gilfillan?
Number one is to implement restorative justice and restorative economic principles in the first place. Stop hemorrhaging taxpayer dollars to criminal justice systems that are locking up large numbers of misdemeanants, people who are nonviolent. We're spending $80 to $100 a day keeping people locked up who are not legally, I mean, they are considered legally innocent. So saving money is as important as making money and budgeting money. Secondly, building systems that can, in fact, be efficient so that we don't have redundancy of permits and things that drive costs up for the business world. So looking at efficiency. And number three, moving money into the other departments. Parks and Rec needs money badly. They're hurting. Planning needs money badly. They're hurting. Sucking up 2/3 of our budget in law and justice is inappropriate, and it's out of balance budgeting.
Where would you place funding for social services in your budget priorities? And please be specific about housing for low-income families and the homeless. Candidate Gilfillan?
I would put a tremendous amount of money into funding nonprofits and helping the homeless and helping the poor and indigent. We have a deep poverty-driven economy right now. We now have generational poverty. Most people, I mean, the income breach between the high end and the low end is very, very big. A lot of middle-class people are now living on other people's couches. People don't want to talk about it because it's indecent to talk about that in a civilized, high-class society. But the fact is, what we need to be doing is building the homeless centers. Western produced 5 homeless communities. They're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They would save us so much money in government expenditures if we simply took them out of jail and put them into alternative housing, tiny homes, all kinds of things. Absolutely. Mental health, we need mental health programs. We are not adequately funded, and the token programs we have are simply inadequate.
Candidate Laus?
Well, I'm pleased to say that over the last 4 years, we've increased our effectiveness as it relates to homeless housing and the services that we're providing in Whatcom County. Currently, we're spending about $2.7 million a year helping the people in our community that are in need. The League of Women Voters, of course, has put their pamphlet out and for the women's economic security, and it takes housing, food, transportation, jobs, and health care. And if any of those particular components of a person's life go awry, they have an opportunity to slide backwards in the society. So Whatcom County is doing a lot. The 2.7 for homeless housing, 350-some-thousand for veteran services, the mental health court and the other courts that we have. Part of those programs is to get people to re-enter into society. So we're doing good things, folks, and I'm planning to continue those programs.
Please give your opinion on funding for bicycle paths and trails in Whatcom County. Candidate Laus.
Well, thank you for that one. We do have a bicycle pedestrian committee. They work with our Public Works Department. as we develop all road improvement projects in Whatcom County is there is a multimodal component that we take a look at, and where appropriate we have the ability to widen the shoulders out and make bike paths on it. We don't have as much opportunity with our 930 miles of road as the cities do, just because of the density and the amount of roads that we have. But if you take the Hannigan now from Bellingham to Linden, you look at the Mount Baker Loop Trail that we're trying to accomplish from Bellingham to Ferndale, the components of that and the planning for those are all inclusive of the thoughts related to bicycle and pedestrian activity, and I think that it's good for us to continue those programs.
Candidate Gilfillan.
I agree with Mr. Laus. I think that dealing with our recreational use on people who are trying to not drive so many cars and instead be healthy and drive bicycles are important. I think that it's proportional, and I think we need to look at funding for that relative to other critical areas, funding for other recreational funding, for everything. I think we have to look at it proportionally.
In the 2015 State of the County message, the county exec described county revenues as stable, but expressed some concern about future revenues due to outside factors such as reductions in retail sales or state and federal grants. If necessary, what services or programs would you recommend cutting and why? Candidate Gilfillan.
The codependence on the criminal justice system. I think that one of the biggest things we have to look at is the fact that economically we are dealing with a Canadian border and a Canadian economy that could in fact crash and could deeply threaten the income coming into this county. I think we have to look at the fact that small businesses and little tiny people cannot pay their bills right now. I think we have to be aware of the fact that prison reform is going to change everything. I think we have to build a self-reliant business model on every single level. I think we need ingenious thinking, and I think we need innovation, and I'm willing to lead the charge on that.
And Candidate Laus.
Well, I would say that Whatcom County government is not as dependent on Canadian sales tax as the cities are. Growth management has put all of the large retail centers within the urban areas, and consequently our sales tax does not fluctuate as much as the cities do. And even with the downturn in the Canadian traffic, Whatcom County sales tax is up. But as it relates to the budget, you need to determine whether or not it's going to be a permanent decline or whether it is a momentary point in time where you're going to have a reduction in services. If it's a momentary point in time, you look at your reserves and you look at your capital spending and you adjust those so that you can slide through the period of time that you have for that. Whatcom County did an excellent job of that in 2008 through the recession. So if it's a permanent cut, then you need to take a look at the whole organization and balance your priorities out with the engagement of the council, because they make those legislative decisions. Oh, I got the bell.
2 years of low rainfall have increased concern about our water supply. If elected, what measures would you recommend to council to ensure a safe and ample water supply for all needs? Candidate Laus.
Well, water is of major concern, and on the short term, and if it develops into the long term as it relates to the amount of snowfall and snowpack that we have in the mountains, is we're going to have to continue to do the absolute best job that we can conserving water. What we are doing right now related to water is that Whatcom County is spearheading the effort related to the Comprehensive Water System Plan, which is taking all of our municipal users throughout Whatcom County. We're consolidating the information. We're actually finding out how much we're using. That's a major step that we're going to need to have identified as we move forward, working with the Lummi Nation, the Nooksack tribe, the farmers, and all of the constituents within Whatcom County who are water users to find that long-term solution. So we're actively pursuing solutions and putting the data together that's going to be necessary to find those solutions.
And Candidate Gilfillan.
One of my deepest concerns is the fact that America itself is dealing with weather changes. Whether we like it or not, Other agricultural areas are heavily impacted by lack of water. If we have catastrophic failure in any of our other states and we lose food supply chain food supplies and we mess with our food supply chain. I was talking to the head of the Department of Agriculture in the state of California a couple of years ago. She said that one of the biggest problems she had in managing agriculture and business in the state of California was that the legislators didn't understand food supply chain dynamics. And I said, that's not a good idea. She said, we're also out of balance. We are now codependent on other countries for our food supply. She said, and worse than that, the food producers don't even understand food supply chain dynamics. I think we have to have a real serious conversation in Whatcom County about who gets the water, how we get it, how do we preserve it, so that we have food to feed our children.
Thank you. Are there changes in the organization, systems, or procedures of county government you believe would result in greater efficiency, reduce cost, or improve services? And please give some specific examples. Candidate Gilfillan?
I would institute a 360-degree accounting type system or co-measurement system. I think that, number one, every single person who works in county government, and that I mean from the county executive all the way down to the janitors, needs to be co-measured from a friendly, cooperative method. There are many innovative methods of doing it, and it's not all economic, and it's not all measured on whether or not you do the rules right. It should be measured on who is in fact bringing forward good ideas, who is saving the county taxpayers money, who is getting the taxpayers a better return on investment, not just who's balancing the budget and looking good on the surface. I think that, number one, we must establish a new measurement system. That's one of the first. And I think the other one is we need a taxpayers accountability method so that when taxpayers have problems, they can bring it to the government and somebody in fact listens so that solutions can be developed.
Candidate Laus.
Yeah, thank you for that. One is Whatcom County is a sub-agency of the state of Washington, and we're working on behalf and in coordination with the state. One thing that I would like to see at the state level is a reduction in the redundancy of documentation and reviews that we need to do on the processes that we engage in within our government. That may be a big ask, but the question was asked, and I would love to be able to free our government up to be a bit more self-reliant and develop more of a trust relationship with the state. Secondly is the access to information for our citizens. We've been pushing a lot of effort into our IT department so that you can access information without working with our staff. It's not that we don't like to work with you, it just takes time and costs money. And then clear code so that on the enforcement side of things is we can make things work better.
On the November ballot, there's a proposed council charter amendment to adopt term limits for county council members and the county executive, a total of 12 years in office. Do you support this proposal, and what are your reasons for your opinion? Candidate Laus?
I personally don't have a lot of problem with it. I've always considered my public service to be part of my life and not all of my life, so it's not a career choice for me to be county executive for the next 30 years. One, I'd be very old at that particular time. So I don't have a challenge with it, but you have to realize is that if you want an executive who's 35 years old to upend his life and his career for a political office, at 35 years, he's going to be 47 when he's going to be kicked out of office, and you might restrict some very, very good candidates from wanting to get involved at that particular age of their life, because this is a full-time job, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time to make that happen. But for somebody to put their name forward and being elected at particular times in their life may be challenging for them, and I would just ask that the citizens consider that part of it as they're making their decision.
Candidate Gilfillan.
I absolutely believe in term limits. I think that if you can't get into a government situation, run a company, rebuild it, do whatever you need to set it on visionary tracks, and bring people up behind you who can take care of the business, I think we have problems. I think that if someone is that good at 35 and they spend 12 years, gee, maybe we ought to have them running for governor or running for state or federal government. If they're that good, let's let them go. Let's not just let them sit down and be cushy in a nice $150,000 a year job. I think that it's terrific. I think it's great. But I think we should let people move on. I think that there's a heck of a lot of power that is accumulated in any position like this. And I think disrupting it, I'm a farmer. It's always good to stir up the soil and allow new blood to come in and new ideas to move. Our world is moving really fast. Old systems and old methods are not going to work in the coming years. New people need to be adaptable to have 12 to 24 careers in their lifetime right now. When we grew up, most of us older folks, we only had 2.
How will you improve the historically contentious relationship between the county and the Bellingham City government? Candidate Gilfillan.
It would be a joy to solve the contentious relationships between the county and the city. And the reason, I believe, is that we need to stop thinking that the city is in opposition to. The city is part of the county. And there are 6 other cities in this community that are part of the county. And when I went around talking to the unincorporated people and these people in other cities, it was fascinating for me to find out that everybody who lives in the unincorporated area only has a county executive, county officials to vote for, and everyone living in every single other city has a mayor and councils, plus the county council and the county executive. So in fact, all the unincorporated areas have half the representation. Well, what if we had a council of all people every single year and brought everyone together in a 1 or 2 day conference for economic development and systemic change? We can do it.
Candidate Laus.
Well, I think that I have been involved in bringing a collaborative leadership style between the City of Bellingham and Whatcom County in the past 4 years. I'm really pleased and proud and honored that the Dispute Resolution Center awarded Mayor Kelly Linville and I the Leadership Award for Collaborative Leadership. We have done that because we respect each other's opinions. That doesn't mean that we're going to agree on every issue, and I think that the jail is probably a prime example of that at this particular time. But I'm committed to work with Mayor Kelly, working with the Bellingham City Council, and all of the councils throughout our community, because we are brothers and sisters, and we don't have a choice of who our relatives are, and we need to work together. I bring that leadership style to the table, and I'm planning on doing everything that I can over the next 4 years to maintain that good relationship.
Thank you. And this will be our last question before we go to closing statements. The county and the City of Bellingham have integrated emergency medical services, but additional funding is needed to fully support the system. What do you believe is the best way to provide such revenue? And please give a reason for your choice. Candidate Laus?
We have been working collaboratively with the cities in the last 2 years related to emergency medical services. I am pleased that the City of Bellingham, Fire District 7, and Whatcom County have put together this collaborative effort to hold it together. We have a funding problem related to emergency medical services because the federal government has reduced our income or our reimbursement for that program by about $2 million a year. 6 years ago, it was $4 million a year. We're getting less than $2 million right now. Working with the mayors, we put together a team, and I believe that we're going to be proposing a very small property tax measure for the voters next year to consider keeping that very important program up and operating. It's unfortunate that we have to do that, but it's becoming apparent that while parts of the Affordable Care Act are doing us very well, that particular component of it is costing Whatcom County government a lot of money.
And Candidate Gilfillan.
That's a perfect example of why we should not pass the sales tax. In my opinion, We need to be planning for emergency services, emergency care, crisis care. We need to be using our sales tax to plan for the high probability that emergency preparedness may be our #1 problem coming up in the next few years as climate change affects our water, as we're anticipating earthquakes, as we have experienced toxic problems from the tsunami. All of these things are problems in the future. We cannot afford to use our sales tax for locking up more people. We need to go back to the drawing board, rethink about how we do this, and stop thinking that taxpayers have an unlimited amount of money. Taxpayers have to do the original money. As Satpal talked about, we're a nonprofit organization as a government. Think about that, folks. If we don't have enough taxpayers making enough money, there's no taxes to run government.
Candidates, you now have the opportunity to make a 1-minute closing statement. Candidate Laus, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you again so much for having us here tonight. I've received the endorsement of all of the city mayors, the Lummi Nation, the Farm Bureau, and the realtors. If you look at the Lummi Nation and the Farm Bureau, they both have big water interests. I believe I'm the right person to bring those opposing, or those, I shouldn't say opposing, but those groups to the table. Been awarded the Peace Builder Award by the Dispute Resolution Center. I do want to solve the jail issue, our comp plan issues, bringing an ambulance to your door as it relates to emergency medical services, the records management system, and I want to work on behalf of the citizens of Whatcom County as the administrative head and to use the skill set that I've learned over the years, and hopefully I'm doing that to your satisfaction. So I do ask for your vote on November 3. Please vote Jack Laus for County Executive.
And Candidate Gilfillan.
I'm an non-political, unpolitician who does not have a lot of independent or group endorsements. I didn't go after them. I didn't go after them a lot because what I found when I started to is that many were afraid to endorse someone who stood so radically opposed to our current system of government and the current system and method of doing business in Whatcom County. So I realized that it would be smarter to work independently, as I have done my entire life. I am a maverick. I am a small business developer. That's what I do. I have transformed over 40 different kinds of projects. I have run my own $3.5 million sales organization, and I have coached companies to transform their own companies, their own businesses. I've won all kinds of awards. I believe that I have what it takes to lead a visionary renovation of this county to lead us into a 21st century. Voting for Joy.com.
Please join me in thanking Joy Gilfillan and Jack Laus for being here tonight and for running